center of the universe and the Thrive15.com world headquarters.
Let's go!
Presenting the world's only business school without the BS, with optometrist and entrepreneur Dr. Robert Zellner and the former Small Business Administration Entrepreneur of the Year in your ear, Clay Clark. It's the Thrive Time Show on Talk Radio 1170. 3, 2, 1, boom.
Boom, boom, boom. Welcome back to the Thrive Time Show on your radio. My name is Clay Clark. I'm the former SBA Entrepreneur of the Year. And finally, my allergies are gone. I am so thankful, so grateful, and so excited to be joined here with you. The Thrive Time Show, for anybody who's just found our show for the first time, is a show that's entirely focused on you becoming the most successful person that you could possibly become. It's business school without the BS. And occasionally, inside the box that rocks, we get to invite on guests that have achieved massive success. I mean, we've actually done videos on Thrive15.com with NBA Hall of Fame basketball player David Robinson, who's one of the partners with Thrive15. We've interviewed Michael Levine, who is the former PR consultant of choice for Nike, for Pizza Hut, for Charlton Heston, for the Clintons, for the Bush family, for Michael Jackson, for Prince. I mean, it's just unbelievable, some of the people we have on the show. Well, our next guest is a guest that everybody in Tulsa, or many people in Tulsa, know. Our next guest is Carlton Pearson. Now, Carlton Pearson is a guy who's given over 5,000 sermons, and his life is being turned into a movie called Come Sunday. His life will be portrayed in the upcoming movie Come Sunday. Martin Sheen, who is obviously the father of Charlie Sheen, and the Emmy-winning and Golden Globe winner, will be playing Oral Roberts, and who was Carlton's mentor. And Carlton Pearson will be played by Chiwetel Ejiofor. I've been practicing that for like 7 months now. Chiwetel Ejiofor. This is the guy who is the main character from the movie 12 Years a Slave. He played the part of Solomon Northup and was nominated for an Academy Award for his performance in that movie. Powerful movie. Danny Glover's going to be in the movie. Condola Rashad's going to be in the movie. It's going to be an all-star lineup. It's coming out here, I'd say, the next 5-6 months. It's in post-production. Again, that movie is coming up here, and it is called Come Sunday. Now, Carlton Pearson, though, before he became famous for basically changing religions after he had built a megachurch, he'd also established himself as one of the premier and elite speakers of our generation. He was a guy who helped introduce T.D. Jakes into the limelight there on the television program. He was personally mentored by Oral Roberts, and Oral Roberts was mentored by Napoleon Hill. So my favorite author, who I named my son after, his name is Napoleon Hill. And Napoleon Hill was the personal apprentice of Andrew Carnegie. Let me follow that lineage with you. Again, Andrew Carnegie, he mentored Napoleon Hill. As a business coach, I love these stories, but Andrew Carnegie mentored Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill became the best-selling author of all time. Now, Napoleon Hill was the mentor of Oral Roberts, the founder of Oral Roberts University, and Oral Roberts himself mentored Carlton Pearson. Now, Carlton Pearson has helped me with my speaking career, has given me advice and mentorship throughout the years. I've had him coach me through speaking, and as a business coach, I love to find people who are doing what they do at the best. Religiously, I know many of you will disagree with what he says. I can also say that I religiously disagree with what he's saying, but he is a powerful master of public speaking, and I wanted to interview him about just that. So we're not interviewing him today about religion, we're not interviewing him about politics, but we are interviewing him about how to become the best public speaker possible. And now, ladies and gentlemen, my interview with Carlton Pearson. Why are so many people afraid to do public speaking? What's that all about?
Well, there's a nudity, if I could use that term, that is associated with exposure of your thoughts, of your breath, of your soul and yourself, because speaking is divulging, and people tend to be private by nature. And if you're not accustomed to it, you feel like you're exposing yourself for people to vote for or against you, and nobody likes that. That's an innate thing in all of us. When we have any problem as babies screaming when we come out of the womb because we're hungry, We want something. We want to be fed or we want to be changed. And that stays with us all through life. We want to be fed, our ego, our spirit, our mind, our body, and we want to be changed because we feel like we have constant things to eliminate out of our system.
Now, if somebody has wanting to speak and they have the shakes, before they get up to speak the first time, they're shaking, they're sweating, they're manifesting whatever way that they showcase their nervousness. What advice would you have for somebody that just can't seem to gain control over the shaking, the sweatiness, the stuttering, all of those things that tend to showcase that you're a little bit on the nervous side?
When you don't know that's going to happen, and it happens 5 minutes or 10 or 30 minutes before you walk out on the stage, you don't have a lot of time to do personal therapy. But I always your body starts ventilating, hyperventilating. So that means that breathing has something to do with addressing the nervousness. So instead of hyperventilating, just ventilate, just breathe. Take deep breaths, close your eyes, and focus on yourself and your soul and not the crowd, not even what you have to do. I just focus on me and and I validate myself.
Now, when you've spoken obviously to groups of thousands of people all over the world, what's the biggest audience that you've ever spoken for, or the biggest number of people at one given time?
250,000 in Accra, Ghana.
And were you nervous? Talk to me about what you were thinking when you were speaking in front of 250,000 people.
I was pretty overwhelmed because that many people with an energy of expectation draws out of you. You don't hardly have to do anything but open the portals of your soul and yourself and your mouth, and it just comes because they come there with expectations. It's a different kind of thing if you're campaigning and you're trying to convince people that you're that they should vote for you. In that setting, I was with Oral Roberts, and we had gone there together, and there was such anticipation. There was another 250,000 around the stadium, we were told.
Wow.
And they could hear us, but we couldn't see them. We could see these people, and there was such expectation and anticipation and such hope, and I've never been in a situation that was more syncopated. There was some kind of synergy there because of the expectation of the crowd. You have to be able to feel the crowd out, to sense their attitude toward the event, the substance of what is going to be presented, and you, the presenter. You're juggling all that at one time, and you learn how to do that better with experience.
Now, approximately when was that? When was that event in Ghana?
That would have been 1990, or right when we were building the City of Faith, between 90 and 95.
Wow. Okay. So if anyone is listening here, kind of in summary, and they're struggling with the fear of public speaking, what action items, what advice, what should they do if they are struggling with the fear of public speaking?
Well, if you have not spoken and you're not going to speak tomorrow or at the moment, you start personal therapy about self-actualization. You look at yourself, you study yourself, you get to know yourself, you go into the dark corners and regions and reaches of your consciousness and find out who you are, not who you impersonate. And you discover the imposter, kick him or her out, and get in touch with the actual, factual, functional, punctual you.
Would you recommend that somebody who's never spoken before and is just that, it's a kind of a career limiter? They know they want to become a public speaker, and they feel overwhelmed with even the thought of it, but they know that they feel like that for them to self-actualize and to become the best them that they need to be, that they need to master public speaking. Would you advise for them to just start volunteering to speak in places? Would you advise for them to just hook a microphone up to themselves and start talking to an audience of one? Or what would you say, what should they be doing on a very practical level to develop those speaking skills?
Start in the mirror. Stand and look at yourself in the mirror. And there's a scripture in Genesis that says Adam and Eve were naked and felt no shame. That's one of the most powerful and intriguing scriptures in the whole Bible. How can you feel naked? How can you be naked, which means you're vulnerable and you're exposed and you don't feel any shame, or you don't blush? That comes from facing who you are and who you aren't.
Well, I think we've heard the word nudity more than we've ever heard on this show before. But on the Thrive Time show, while we had Brother Carlton on the show and why we're going to be hearing more from him after the break, is that he became one of the most prolific evangelists and motivational speakers of his era. And he helped launch the Azusa Conference, which obviously he did launch. He was the founder of the Azusa Conference that filled up the Mabee Center year after year. And he has made a big impact on my life, teaching me how to become an effective speaker. And one of the things that you have to learn to do to become an effective motivational speaker or speaker is you have to learn how to develop confidence. And that is a deep topic. And how do you do that? How do you get in front of an audience of your peers and deliver a presentation that actually not only impacts people and touches them emotionally, but it also can teach them practical skills? And then how do you do that every Sunday? I mean, the guy gave over 5,000 sermons. How do you do that? When we come back, Carlton's going to be teaching us more about how to become the best speaker that you could possibly be. Now, for me personally, I will tell you, when I received the Entrepreneur of the Year award from the Small Business Administration, I had no intention of becoming a business coach. Becoming a business coach wasn't something that I had planned on. I didn't dream of visions of becoming a business coach, or it just wasn't something in my mind. I was a guy who started a company called DJ Connection. It was an entertainment company where before I sold it, we were doing about 4,000 events a year. Well, when I received the award from the Small Business Administration, as well as the Young Metro Chamber of Commerce Entrepreneur of the Year Award, and a variety of other awards, a plethora of awards, more and more people began to ask me to speak. And I don't know about you, but if you're not used to public speaking, or you haven't ever aspired to become a public speaker, just the thought of doing the presentation is nerve-wracking. I remember I used to get up there and I would just shake the paper. I would just shake the paper, and I remember my voice would quiver, and I would just get up there and lady, I was so nervous, I was so stressed, and then you go through that whole apologetics tour, where you get up there and you say, folks, I'm not that great of a speaker, I'm not that good, I didn't prepare that much, and you kind of go through that, and then you remember these moves where you're supposed to not look anybody in the eye. You're supposed to look at the exits. So now you're doing something weird that no one's ever done before in life to other people. I mean, how many of us are around people who look at exits while talking to us? How many of us have good friends who, when you're engaging in a conversation with them, they begin looking at exits? It's weird. So now you're making the audience feel weird. You're shaking. You're getting nervous. You're doing this. You're apologizing. You're shaking. You're crimpling the paper. And then they get nervous because you're nervous. And then next thing you know, there's this tension in the room, and it just gets weird. In fact, more people, there's all sorts of studies that show more people are afraid of public speaking than they are of death. I don't quite understand that, but there's a lot of people who are very much afraid of public speaking. And did you know that Warren Buffett said that the Dale Carnegie Institute of Public Speaking made the biggest impact on him of anything else in his life up to that point? The Dale Carnegie Institute courses on how to become an effective public speaker made a bigger impact on him than any other courses up until that point in his life. That's from Warren Buffett. So when we come back, Carlton Pearson is going to teach us the powerful lesson about how do you develop confidence as a speaker. It's the Thrive Time Show with Carlton Pearson. Stay tuned.
We'll, come on, know all about it. Come on.
I'm Ken P. Lott, and I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Professional painting by Ken. Quite a bit of stuff. A lot of stuff I know that I needed to do but didn't know how to do it. Web page, how to hire people, sales, making a schedule, making programs. I mean, just a lot of stuff. I mean, it's overwhelming, but it's good stuff that you can actually put to practice right away. It's a lot different than I expected. Been to different workshops, and you're just waiting for the sales punch, and they give you ideas and stuff, but it's always 10 years down the road when you can actually apply the stuff that they're trying to promote. And this is not like that at all. It's very ground level, help you start a business and maintain and grow a bigger business. I like it a lot because he makes you feel comfortable, makes you laugh, so it opens you up to receive and hear better. This is great. It's a lot of interaction. You can ask him questions, you can help, if you don't understand something, he can explain it more. So it's very, very helpful. They're missing a lot because a lot of businesses probably do some of the steps that he's teaching, but there's so much they can learn into easy steps that they'll grow their business even better. It's not like any other workshop I've ever been to. It's very laid back and a lot of information, and it's a comfortable setting. It's awesome. It's a really good experience.
By and by, when the morning comes, all the saints are gone again. We will tell that story, how we've overcome, and we'll understand. I wondered if she understood it, but as soon as I started
All right,
singing,
Thrive
she
Nation,
started
welcome back to the Thrive Time Show on your radio. Today we are joined with the man, the myth, and the legend, Brother Carlton Pearson. His life is being turned into the upcoming movie that's going to star Martin Sheen, who will be playing the part of Oral Roberts. And his character, Carlton Pearson, he will actually be played by, and I've been practicing this for at least a month, practicing the pronunciation of this, and it's still not helping, but it's Chiwetel Ejiofor. He's the main character from the movie called 12 Years a Slave, where he played the character of Solomon Northup, and he went on to receive an Academy Award nomination for that part. Also, Danny Glover's in the movie, and it basically explains Carlton Pearson's decision to switch teams. He was a guy who had given 5,000 sermons. He had a mega church. He was the senior pastor and founder of Higher Dimensions Church, and then he switched religions on us. And so he's been a friend of mine. He's been a mentor of mine. He's taught me a lot about speaking, and he gets deep. And so during today's show, we're asking him everything there is to know about public speaking. And we're not going to get into religion. We're not going to get into politics, although he does operate consistently in those two avenues. We are talking about specifically public speaking. And why would you want to know how to become an effective public speaker? Well, you know that Warren Buffett, probably the most successful or one of the most successful investors of our time, one of the most prolific billionaires of our time, he has said that the Dale Carnegie Institute training that he received on how to become an effective public speaker made the biggest impact on his career of any training that he has ever received. Let me play the audio of Warren Buffett talking to you about just how important it is to become an effective communicator and public speaker.
Persuasion. That's the next remarkable skill of Mr. Buffett, handling people.
My mom says when he was in his 20s, he was reasonably socially inept. I mean, like in large crowds, he'd much rather not be there, and he just would rather be reading and working on his stuff.
So Buffett learned how to deal with people from self-help guru Dale Carnegie.
I was terrified of public speaking when I was in high school and college. I couldn't do it. I mean, throw up and everything. So I took this Dale Carnegie course, and as soon as I finished it, I was 20 years old. I went out to the University of Omaha, and I said, I want to start teaching because I wanted to get up in front of people and make sure I didn't lapse back.
Carnegie promised anyone could win friends and influence people if they did things like giving people aspirations to live up to instead of nagging them, and using their first name all the time.
I actually have the diploma in the office, and I don't have my diploma from college. I don't have my diploma from graduate school, but I've got my Dale Carnegie diploma there because it changed my life.
Wow. Dale Carnegie's schooling, Dale Carnegie's training changed Warren Buffett's life. Did you hear that? Warren Buffett just said that becoming an effective public speaker changed his life. And now, ladies and gentlemen, more of the interview with Carlton Pearson. Developing confidence. You want to speak about a subject you've earned the right to speak about. Can you kind of explain to me what it means? I mean, because you've obviously spoken at thousands and thousands of events, but you've also attended events where there's been other speakers, some speakers that hadn't earned the right to speak. Maybe they got up there to speak, but it was kind of a letdown, let's say. Not to be critical of other speakers, but talk to me about what it means to earn the right to speak about a subject that you've earned the right to speak about.
Well, anything you feel like you've mastered. Now, a master's degree takes about 40,000 hours. When you spent 40,000 hours at anything, that's just being a human being. You mastered being a human being, or father, or the roles that we play. But when you stand in front of the mirror and project into that mirror, you are your own audience. And if you're not comfortable, some people literally are not comfortable talking to themselves. They're comfortable thinking to themselves, but they don't verbalize it. They think it's a form of insanity. Standing in front of a crowd is a form of insanity. You stand there and you're going to manipulate a crowd for however many minutes. You have to first be able to manipulate yourself. If you cannot stand and look at yourself in a mirror, even nude, then you're not quite going to make it on the stage, because you have to undress if you're going to get the people's attention.
Now, I had the pleasure of attending your church for years when you were the pastor of Higher Dimensions Church, and I always got the feeling that you knew about 10 times more or 100 times more than I did about anything that you spoke about. You didn't get up there and start talking about search engine optimization, or it was a church, obviously, but it seemed like every topic that you talked about, you just knew that you knew that you knew. It seemed like you done it in a judgmental way, but it seemed like you knew 10 to 100 times more than the audience. Were there things that you did the week of the speech, the week of the sermon, the week of the talk? Are there things that you do to really earn the right to speak or to become an absolute expert of that subject? Yes, it has to do, again, with my whole life now is about self-actualization, confidence, confidence. To confide is to tell somebody about a secret or a private matter while trusting them not to repeat it to others. Now, when you talk to yourself and you confide in yourself and you expose and express and experience yourself, that's the first step to exposing, expressing, and experiencing others. Because when you're standing on that stage, you must first experience your life starts and stops with how you experience yourself. It's not how the people experience you, but how you experience you. If it's not, often it's not what your mother thinks about you, or your parents, or your friends. What do you think about you? Why do you think that about you? And how do those thoughts about you add to or subtract from the quality of your life, your self-expression? Now, if I'm listening right now and I want to become an expert at some point, like say I'm listening and I just say I really want to become the absolute expert of a niche. So let's say I'm listening and I am maybe a financial advisor, and I want to become an expert financial speaker. I see myself doing that. What advice would you have for somebody who wants to become an expert in a given field? What kind of action steps, what do they need to do to become an expert? Experience. Expert comes from experience. When you experience yourself or experiment with yourself, again, that's looking in the mirror all the time. You're always looking in a mirror. You're always looking at yourself. You're already basically talking to yourself, your fears, your hurts, your pain, your pathos. That's how they feel who you are. As Maya Angelou says, people don't remember what you say, they remember how you make them feel. Feelings are powerful. But the universe doesn't judge you so much by what you feel, but by what you think about what you feel, and what you think about what you think about what you feel, and then what you think about that. So feelings and thought are twin partners on the stage. And yet again, his mind is blowing my mind. If you've ever wanted to become an effective public speaker, you don't want to miss out. Come back after the break with more from brother Carlton Pearson, whose life is being turned into the upcoming movie called Come Sunday. And he's a guy who's given over 5,000 sermons. He knows a little something about public speaking. Stay tuned.
I'll show you.
My name is Nikki Warren, and I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma. The name of my business is The Mocha Butterfly, and I'm a fashion designer. I heard about the Thrive Time Business Workshops through a dear friend of mine, and I got a chance to meet with Clay and Dr. Z, and as I talked to them a little bit more, I loved what they were doing, and it just made me, more intrigued because I really wanted to grow my business. Well, what I've learned is that for my business in particular, marketing is needing to be, I need to step it up a lot more, and the just focusing in on some key things to get that really going is going to really get me where I want to go with my goals. I think it's fun. It's a fun atmosphere, which most business-oriented, I'm an artistic, artsy person, and I tend to lose interest very quickly if I don't have something to keep me engaged. And, the humor, the real life experience, and the casualness of it is just really engaging for me. And it's just very relatable. And so for me, I am having a ball. Like, I was so excited to come yesterday. I had butterflies, literally, butterflies in my stomach, and I'm just really excited to be here. Well, it's an interesting place. It's got a lot of words of affirmation and quotes and things like that. Very positive environment. The people here are very nice and friendly, and I love the way the room is set up. It's very open space type of model, and like I said, it's more of a casual environment. It's not stuffy and professional. It's professional, but it's not stuffy professional. There is a difference. And so it's very warm and inviting here. Love the teaching style, love the presentation, very organized and easy to follow. And like I said, the real life experience and the humor just adds that much more to it. I know people who go to different workshops, and I'm not sure if they're grasping all of what's being presented there, but I am almost 100% sure that if they come to a workshop like this one, they will get some great golden information that's going to help them meet their goals if they're willing to apply what they hear. There's no upselling here, which that wasn't really a big concern for me, but if I were talking to someone who's very concerned about upselling, I would tell them that they have no worries here, and that, I think that this environment is very relaxed, inviting, warm, and engaging, and so even it does actually makes you wonder, what else is there? I won't lie about that. So it's kind of more of an independent intrigue rather than someone pushing you into the intrigue of what else is offered. I recommend coming to this workshop because it is an intimate setting, great people. I've met some really cool people doing some cool businesses, and the teaching style and the presentation is awesome.
I said, bye and bye, mother. She went like this. Oh, bye and bye. When the morning comes, come on. All the things God will do. We will tell the story how it all, and we'll understand it better. Then she sang this. We are all been tossed and driven.
All right, Thrive Nation, welcome back into the conversation. It is the Thrive Time Show on your radio. My name is Clay Clark. I'm the former SBA Entrepreneur of the Year. And today we have for you a special treat. We have Carlton Pearson on the show. I know he's a controversial figure, and for many of you, you love him. Many of you, you hate him. But he is the guy who built the Higher Dimensions Church before switching religions. And so his life is being made into a movie about what many would call his heresy. It is called Come Sunday. And Come Sunday is going to star Martin Sheen, who will be playing the part of Oral Roberts, his mentor. And Oral Roberts and Carlton Pearson himself will actually be played by, and I've been practicing the pronunciation of this name for at least a month now, but Carlton Pearson will be played by Chiwetel Ejiofor. And he is the actor from the movie 12 Years a Slave, who was nominated for an Academy Award as a result of his performance in that movie. And also, the movie will star Danny Glover. So he's got an all-star cast of people portraying his life story. But today we're not talking about religion or politics. We are talking about the art of becoming an effective public speaker, how to become a better communicator. And I can think of nobody better than Brother Carlton Pearson when it comes to teaching us how to become an effective public speaker. He worked with me early in my career. He sat down with me many times and gave me feedback and tips and mentor moments. And now we'll have an opportunity for him to help you as well. So more with the conversation of my interview with brother Carlton Pearson. So why do you need to speak? I mean, I saw you do it countless times on Sunday. It seemed like any given Sunday you could deliver an unbelievable talk that would, I'm just being totally transparent. It would keep me pumped up from Sunday till about Tuesday to Wednesday. Wednesday, I'm going, I need to get back on a Sunday. Thursday, Friday, I'm just holding on, trying to just keep on holding on. And then a Sunday, bam, it's like a firecracker, and you would energize the audience, motivate the audience. But it seemed like you always spoke from something you had lived. Even if it was the smallest story, a story maybe that was, doesn't seem like a profound, you had a way of making even the most simple things profound. Why is it so important to talk about something that you've lived from your actual story, if possible?
I adopted the philosophy years ago that people would rather see a sermon than hear one any day. You don't just preach a sermon, you perform a sermon. You're literally delivering part of yourself, your soul, into that crowd. They feel that they have been given something. Now, you are a speaker's dream because you come with anticipation. You come expecting, and you get what you come for. I knew after years of drawing people that they liked to hear me speak, so it was never intimidating to me because it was like being intimate with your wife. You know she's expecting you, you're expecting her. There's this oneness, and that happens when a pastor is with a crowd. Now, and that same crowd every week. Now, when you're speaking around the country to crowds that haven't experienced you in person, there's a fresh flirting that goes on, a little flirtation. You first flirt with the crowd. You court the crowd, which means you're courteous to them. And by the time you finish, you've married and gone to intimacy to where you've produced something together.
Now, okay, so you have told me this before, and it might seem, to me it seemed sort of bizarre when you first told me, but you talked with your audience, you need to build rapport, and you said you need to have communion. And I was thinking of it in the religious context of, okay, you're having wine, you're having bread, you're talking about God's blood, and his bread represents his body. But talk to me about how you flirt, how you court, how you build rapport, how you build that common union, or maybe even give us some examples. I mean, walk me through. If you're walking into an audience today, maybe even role play with us. I mean, just walk me through. How do you do it when you're speaking in front of an audience? What is your process for building that common union and that rapport? How do you do it?
Well, first, you have to have an attitude of intimacy. I like to define that as intimacy. They're saying that to you, and you're saying that to them non-verbally. You're not actually saying that, but you're showing that. It's foreplay. It's like being intimate in the bed. There's the foreplay, and speakers. The three basic aspects of speaking. Tell them what you're going to tell them, and tell them what you told them. So there's a commonness. Here's what we're going to say. Here's what we're going to do. Then we do it. Here's what we did. That little principle stays with you everywhere. It can be the more simple you make it, the more easy it is to become intimate with the crowd. So you go in there. This almost sounds erotic. You are erect because you're going to inject or ejaculate into that crowd, and there are all these ovaries, all these eggs out there that are ready to be germinated. You got to turn them on. You got to turn them up. And then you know how to turn them off. You get them going so that somebody germinates. You don't birth it there necessarily, but there's germination, there's fertilization in that crowd, and the people leave knowing they have climaxed. They have had.
Okay, I'm gonna put you on the spot. I want to ask this. Okay, so let's say you're in front of an audience right now, and you're doing a speaking event in let's go with Florida. Okay, can you imagine you're going to Florida, and they're asking you to speak about let's say the subject is about your worldviews. Now, you're kind of that universal worldview that you've adopted. Okay, and they don't know who you are, but they know of you. They've heard about a book you've written. They've seen you on maybe CNN or something. Walk me through, kind of give us an example of what you maybe would say to an audience of 100 people in Florida. What do you do? You're on the stage. How do you start? Some people struggle to grasp the practical. How do we do it?
Nothing grabs attention like a question because everybody's on a quest. They wouldn't even be there. There's an inquest or a request or a question. So if you start the encounter with a question, you turn the focus off of you and onto them. Then they start becoming responsible for the encounter. Otherwise, they're viewers and not participants. So you want to get them to become a participant. So you start with a question like, "What's working for you?" All you 100 people, I want to ask you, what's working for you? Well, that gets them to thinking: is my marriage working? Is my business working? How's my body working? How's my mind working? They really become engaged with themselves, and then you are in there helping arbitrate the discussion or the argument or the conversation, because the people always are arguing with themselves. You are an arbitrator. Think about their arguments, not yours. Think about their argument and engage it.
Now, when you speak, one thing is you're very well read, or at least you appear to be well read. I've never been with you while you're reading. That'd be kind of a weird thing to watch a man read. But you are a well-read person. You're well-versed. It seems as though you've studied the origin of words, the history of man, philosophy, theology. There's a lot of things you've studied, and there's this concept in speaking called the law of credibility, where if you're going to say something, you need to really prove what you're saying or provide some sort of factual basis or examples. So I want to get into the law of credibility. You did such a masterful job as a pastor for years, and I've seen you do it in other when you have other venues as well. But why is it so important that you as a speaker have fully researched and know what you're saying is in fact credible?
First of all, you owe it to people to impress them.
Stay tuned. More about public speaking and how to become an effective communicator with Carlton Pearson when we return to the Thrive Time Show.
I used to live on pants sag, not giving a baby boy, now I'm all grown up. I used to cruise the used car lot, put chrome in the truck. Baby boy, now I'm all grown up. Yeah, we used to ball like that. Now
my name is O'Neal Bent, and I'm from Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. I first heard about the business workshops through my wife, Sharita Bent, and I learned a lot more from her, and also got follow-up calls from different members of the organization. Some of the things I've learned about starting my business through Thrive is making sure I'm spending my money on the things I need to spend it on. For instance, like my search engine optimization, my marketing. I'm constantly reviewing the content that I have on my website, and that's just a few of the things. The overall experience I've had from the Thrive Time workshop has been wonderful. I love how everything that we learn is practical. It's not based off of book knowledge. It's not based off of someone else's ideas. It's based off things that have actually worked and have been tried and true. When you walk in, I mean, we came into a smell of wood burning. There's a chimney outside, so we walked to the building. And when you get inside, you almost feel like there's like I don't know if it's like a pub / club / work environment. It just feels really good. You have music blaring, friendly faces, people saying hello. And then when you sit down in your seat, you have nice, comfortable chairs, a wooden desk to work on, and everything looks modern. So it's a really refreshing feeling. Clay's presentation and teaching style is very efficient, effective. It's also endearing though, because he's very comical. He'll talk about different things he's been through, and they're all very funny. But he also hits the exact points he needs to hit at the right time. You never feel like, man, is he ever going to stop talking? You always want to keep listening, and then when it's the bathroom break time, you're surprised it's already there. So I like how he talks about these practical experiences, and it's very enjoyable. The interaction of the workshop is mostly Clay will give you information that you need to know, but then he also opens it up for questions. So there's always this question and response type of situation. And then there's certain things where he'll direct you to do things, and it's because he knows that that's the way to go. You might question it, but I highly encourage you just to listen and do. And to jump into a business and think that you know everything is the most prideful, arrogant thing you could ever do. But to come here and to speak to someone who's already done this many times, has directed several businesses, and can give you wisdom and information, I think it's wonderful. And I think you can never do anything on your own. You have to have other people around you to help you, and he's definitely helpful. The experience I've had at coming to Thrive Time workshops is I was never upsold anything. I mean, I come in, they do exactly what they say they're going to do, and they leave it up to you to follow up and do the work. And I think that's the way it should be. So it's very straightforward, and they do what they say. I recommend that everybody should check out Thrive Time Workshop because there's so much knowledge and information there that you can use to help you run your business. And like I said before, I don't think you can do anything completely on your own. And when you have so much resource and knowledge in one area, you can use all of that and get exactly what you need.
Pop, pop, it's showtime. 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 Guess who's back again? Oh, they don't know. Gone time. Oh, they don't know. Gone time. I bet they know as soon as we walk in. Showed up, I'm wearing Cuban links.
All right, welcome back to the Thrive Time Show on your radio. My name is Clay Clark. I'm the former SBA Entrepreneur of the Year, sent here to help your financial issues disappear. But on today's show, today's Thrive Time Business Coach show, we have a super guest on the broadcast. We have a guy who has delivered over 5,000 sermons and whose life is now being turned into a major motion picture called Come Sunday. His life will star the main actor from the movie called 12 Years a Slave. If you've ever seen that movie, a phenomenal movie that was nominated for an Academy Award, the lead actor from that movie, his name is Chiwetel Ejiofor. He will be playing the part of Brother Carlton Pearson. And Martin Sheen will be playing the part of Oral Roberts, who was the mentor of Carlton Pearson. And then you're going to have Danny Glover in the movie, and you're going to have Condola Rashad. You're going to have starring as Gina Pearson, Carlton's wife. And the whole movie is basically about his literal fall from grace, his decision to go from being the head of a megachurch to being a person who no longer even really espouses the Christian beliefs anymore. And so today's show, I know many of you are sensitive to this subject. Today's show, we're not going to be talking about religion, and we're not going to be talking about politics. But what we are going to talk about is something that Carlton Pearson is an absolute authority on, and something that absolutely will impact your ability to succeed in the world of business. And that is effective communication and effective public speaking. So Brother Pearson is now going to be teaching us more about how to develop confidence in your speaking abilities, how to become a confident speaker. I was able to interview him, sit down with him at the Man Cave, where we are always learning, earning, and burning. And I interviewed him. And coming up next here, we're going to have more from that insightful interview with Brother Carlton Pearson about how to develop your speaking skills. Get your pen and pad ready. The guy goes deep.
You are there not only to express, but to impress. If you know your job, you do it with confidence. It has to do with the way you present yourself. They have to know that the person on this, like if you start and say, I'm very nervous, I haven't done this before, this is my, or you're discrediting yourself, and you're making the people carry you. Never make the people carry you. Carry the people even if you think they're too heavy.
Now you have this ability, I've seen you do it, where you seem to set the expectation for the audience within the first, I don't know if you're intentional about this or not, but the first 5 or 10 minutes, it seems like you're able to develop a common union with your audience, engage them and ask them. It seems as though you can ask them a question, you can engage them, but you also can create this expectation where people want to hear what you're going to say because you've set the table. How do you build that expectation?
You make yourself interesting. If you have to set the bar higher for yourself than you do for them. Make them reach up and look up and think up and then get up. But you've got to put something up there or out there. People like to look up, but they also look down, not only when they're depressed, but when they're looking for something. Most people are looking for themselves, not you, not even what you have to say. So you have to help them locate themselves. And you earn their respect when you make them feel better, not bitter, better about themselves. Sometimes you start by complimenting the audience. I'm so glad you're here. What a beautiful room of people. I feel your energy. You're very positive. My God, there's such expectation in here today. You're going to make this easy for me. You're commanding people. I can sense you're going somewhere. You're here with a mission. Oh my God, the energy. You just start just stroking them, and you've won them almost in seconds.
Now, were you taught this by Oral Roberts or somebody else, or did you learn this, or how did you come about these moves?
I don't know how I was taught it, but I do know I learned that one of the things I used to, and you made me think of something when you asked about Oral. I used to see him come out on the stage back before I ever came to ORU and say, something good is going to happen to you. He would he even opened their television show. That makes the people, you give the people a promise or commitment, and instantly they start believing that something good is going to happen to you. Turn to your neighbor and say, something good is going. Then you start getting them to feel comfortable with each other when you ask for them to participate. If you just let them listen, they get bored faster. If you make them become participants and say, you're not just here as a spectator. You do have a vision, but I want you to participate in the energy in the room. There's energy in this room. Now, Oral would say, oh, there's faith in this place tonight. Glory to God, there's going to be miracles. I can sense it. I felt it when I walked in the door. Oh, the energy is so high. The anticipation. You are great. Oh, it's going to be easy to get miracles. Well, you're just stroking them. So whatever the subject matter is, boy, I feel the high energy in this place. Everybody get your hands. Just for a second, I'm going to ask you to do something you may not become. Stand up, stretch, start getting them to relax.
As you observed Oral, because when you entered, when did you attend Oral Roberts University?
From 1971 to 75.
You had some impressive hair, by the way, back in the day. You had a seriously impressive afro. I want you to know that. I've seen that on TV. I've seen it's documented. That was quite a large mop there. It was
a work of art, dude.
It was impressive. I was impressive. So when you came to ORU and you hit it off with Oral Roberts, when you watched him and were trying to kind of teach his speaking skills, do you think the ministry would have taken off if he would not have been an excellent speaker?
No. Not like it did. He had pride because he was a stutterer from birth. His command of the language and articulation became very important to him. He pulled me aside one time and he said, if you're going to speak, you got to slow down, son. You're talking too fast and you must enunciate every word. Speak with clarity. We were in a live service. And Oral didn't have a lot of time to sit with me unless it was planned. So he would tell me what he needed to tell me while we're sitting there and the crowd's there. Now watch this move. Now see what he did? Watch how I do it. I didn't know he was grooming me to succeed him or to be a major part of the succession, if not the successor of his ministry. So I noticed his diction, and then I asked him about that. And he said for radio, for communication, it's not just about you speaking, it's about them hearing.
When you were taught these moves, what are some of the moves that Oral Roberts taught you where he said, hey, son, look at this. Here we go. I'm going to do this. Watch this. See what I just did this. This is what happened. I mean, what were some of the moves he taught you?
One of the first time he did that, the sound guy was just screwing up the whole evening. I mean, he wouldn't get anything right. And I was trying to lead the music, and I kept having to tell him to turn it up, turn it down, do this. And he got frustrated and just stood up and walked over there to the mic. I mean, I came back and sat on it between songs. He said, let me tell you how to do this. Watch me before you lead the next song. He got up and blasted the guy. He said, you give me exactly what I want or I'll get somebody who will. Soundman, Mr. Soundman, I need you to do this. And it was stunning. The whole crowd got quiet and that guy froze. And then he sat back down. He said, how do you like that?
Okay. So now what's another move at the Orals as we're kind of going back to the past? We're going back. Now, again, I know it's tough because, I mean, you probably physically felt heavy with that much hair on your head at that point. But we had that hair helmet. I mean, walk me through. What were some other moves that he taught you?
I watched him when during the specials and the television. Usually when we singers got finished, everybody went to get a Coke, went to go to the bathroom. I found a corner somewhere on the set, and I did not move. He only talked about 18 minutes. And I sat there and studied every move, from his breaths, from his intonations, for how he looked at the camera. He said to me one time, see the camera not as a crowd, son. See it as one person. Speak to them like you're speaking to one individual. Have a conversation with them. And every person in the crowd will feel like there's nobody in the room but you and them. That's how you connect. That was when I asked him about television some years afterward. But I had noticed that he would do that, looking right in the camera. And the voice inflections, but the gestures, the looks, how he moved his hands, how he dressed, how he stood, whether he had boots on or flats, if he was comfortable or not. He was always making sure he was comfortable. Now, he cleared his throat a lot because he had phlegm, a little acid reflux. He'd have to clear his throat. You could hear that his lungs sometimes were filled. He had still tubercular remains. So he was very conscious of his lungs, his delivery, how he felt.
So the moves, I'm kind of documenting the moves. One is he taught you to speak slow and to enunciate. Now, I grew up as a stutterer as well. Couldn't really talk very well until about 6th grade. And I think anybody who's a ambitious speaker, the first rookie move we do is to talk too fast. Educate us on how you've learned to slow down, what you would maybe be telling yourself if you're a speaker right now, what we should be doing if we know that our Achilles heel is speaking too fast. When we come back after the break, Brother Carlton Pearson will be teaching us even more about how to become an effective communicator. Stay tuned. It's the Thrive Time Show on your radio, your #1 business coach program.
We'll, come on, know all about it. Come on.
I'm Sam Parker.
Okay. I'm Karina Parker.
We live here in town.
We're looking to be in like the food industry. Thrive Time workshops, we've learned about advertising and what we need to do to get our name out there, what we need to do to get to the top of Google, the necessary steps that we need to take right now to get to where we want to be.
The Thrive Time workshop experience is really encouraging, and it's great hands-on information and stuff that we can relate to, because we're able to talk to people here that are going through the same stuff that we are.
There's motivation everywhere. If you don't feel motivated, then something's wrong with you.
He's very upbeat.
All over the walls.
Yeah. He's very funny, like a comedian, but at the same time, he wants you to learn. And so if you have any questions, he's willing to help you and talk you through any questions that you have, but at the same time making it fun and encouraging for you.
He's also very candid. He doesn't hold anything back that most people are like, ooh, maybe I shouldn't say that because it's offensive.
Yeah, you can tell he's being real.
He doesn't care about offending people.
Yeah, he just wants to help you.
So I heard an advertisement that said to leave your wallet at home, and I mean, that's what it's been the whole time. It hasn't been like, oh, make sure you stop by our table in the back and buy 10 books and sign up for a 2-year subscription with us. It was just like, hey, what we do offer, there wasn't pressure, and it's a month-to-month thing. It's not like you're signing your life away.
One shot, everything rides on tonight. Even if I got 3 strikes, I'ma go for it. This moment, we own it. I'm not to be played with because it could get dangerous.
All right. Welcome back to the Thrive Time Show on your radio. It is the #1 business coach radio show on the planet. If you are looking for a business coach and someone to teach you what you specifically need to do to build a successful business, to help you scale your existing business, you have found your radio show. My name is Clay Clark. I'm the former SBA Entrepreneur of the Year. And normally I am joined with Dr. Robert Zellner inside the box that rocks. But today we are joined with Carlton Pearson, who is a guy that many people in Tulsa know because he famously gave over 5,000 sermons throughout his career. He actually is a best-selling author, and he was personally mentored by Oral Roberts. He became a very successful evangelist, and then he decided that he changed his religious views, and he's been called a heretic. He's been featured on national news stories about his change in his views and his faith, or lack thereof. But one of the things that I've appreciated about knowing Carlton over the years and knowing him personally is that he is a phenomenal communicator. And he is a guy who is a gifted orator and a gifted speaker. And he was mentored directly by Oral Roberts himself. He actually introduced, Carlton introduced the Azusa conference, the big conference that went to the Mabee Center year after year that featured speakers like T.D. Jakes. And so his life is now being made into a movie, and the movie is going to star Martin Sheen as Oral Roberts, and the lead actor that's going to play the part of Carlton Pearson, his name is Chiwetel Ejiofor. But you might not know the name, but if you've seen the movie 12 Years a Slave, and if you haven't, you should see it. 12 Years a Slave is a phenomenal movie, and it's a portrayal of a character by the name of Solomon Northrop, who ends up being captured and taken as a slave when he once was a free man. And anyway, there was an Academy Award-winning movie and a phenomenal actor. And then you have Danny Glover will be in the movie, and you have Kadola Rashad. I mean, you've got an all-star lineup there. It's going to be a really neat movie, whether you agree with Carlton's religious views or not. This is not a religious show, and this is not a political show, but we are going to have him on the show today, and we're talking about how to develop your confidence as a speaker, how to become a successful communicator. So if you're just tuning in, what we're listening to now is an interview that I actually had with Carlton Pearson talking about how you and I can develop more confidence as a public speaker.
First of all, words are powerful. They're creative. They are inventive. They are the most sacred trust that you have, the ability to use them. Nothing is more powerful than language. We spell words, but words also spell us and cast spells upon us. You've heard of a spellbinding speaker? You really are enchanting. That's where we get the word cantor in the Jewish synagogue. Or the incantation, the chanting, the repetition, the vibrations, the beat of the heart and of the pulse. Now, people only breathe fast when they're nervous, or they're hyped or hyper or exhausted or exerted. That's a sign of tension. You don't want to create tension. You want to create intention. So if you speak deliberately and intentionally and articulately and accentuate words that need to be accentuated, it's almost like making love to the crowd.
You did something years ago where you were talking at one of your services, and you were talking about, I want to say your grandmother, but you were able to tee up the story, and then you went into that song Farther Along. And the way you did I just remember watching you going, he is not in a hurry. It came across as though you were being very intentional, and I felt as though you were talking to me, and everybody else felt that way as well. So talk to me about speaking to an audience of one, how you're able to do that. What are some of the moves you need to do to sound like that?
Some people have the mentality, and it's really healthy, this is my time. And then there's another one that's this is my term. And then there's just my termination. Everybody has time, but you have a term. You have to focus on why you're there. What time and what term? How much? What is my term? It's my term, or somebody say, it's my turn. The turn or the term to create something between you and that audience.
Okay.
And if you go with that in your mind, okay, I've got 15 minutes to turn this crowd on, make them receptive, get their juices flowing, impregnate them, and then do the afterplay.
Now, I want to ask you this because this is something that, I think people may be critical about, people who've spoken in the world of televangelism, in the world of sales, in the world of anything where they've influenced people and it has ever involved money. And I always tell people with public speaking, make sure that you have the motive right, and then sometimes the methods that people argue with make sense. I want to ask you, I mean, what are other, I mean, where's the ethics there of the method, and the motive? Because it seems like you can actually motivate an audience to do almost anything, good or bad, if you are a powerful speaker.
Well, if love is the motive, and it's not always the motif, but it's the motive. The motif is a decorative sign or pattern. How you decorate or pattern it is one thing, but when they feel, they have to know, like the statement is, people don't really care that you know until they know that you care. Once they feel you really interested in them more than yourself or your message or the product you're selling, once they're convinced that they can trust that you love them or that at least you care for them, you've got them.
So what were other, because we know Oral Roberts had the right motive there. What are some of the other moves that he taught you? What are some other moves that you saw and you said, wow, that is something that I learned and I adapted it and adopted it, put it into my own quiver, so to speak, and now it's become, you've obviously moved on and you've edited and you've made it your own. But what's another move or two that he taught you?
Using subtle self-deprecation relaxes an audience and gives you the right to address them, because it puts you on a level that suggests very powerfully that you relate to who they are and that you're not just hung up on who you are. You already know you're a celebrity or a celebrated person, or the crowd wouldn't come to hear you. So that's not something you need to sell. You don't really have to make them know, celebrate you anymore. Your objective is to make them celebrate themselves. So you turn the attention on themselves, and again, you are the umpire, because there's a wrestle, there's a battle going on, there's a fight, there's an argument always going on. So you're a referee, and you are a arbitrator. See yourself as a bridge. That's what my thing is previously pontificate. You're building a bridge between where the person is and where they want to go, or where the person is and where you want them to go. So you're actually an architect, you're a contractor, you are a instructor, you are a humorist, you use comedy, wit and timing and syncopation, and you walk on a certain cadence to prevent decadence or death, because there's something being born and something dying all the time in that meeting.
Did you script out your talks when you were preaching at the peak, the apex of your ministry? Did you script them all out? I mean, how much of an outline were you bringing to the table for every event? Because it seemed to me that you really, really knew your stuff.
Well, I've never been good at making outlines, and I never did. I just talk. Now, with the scripture was my outline, because I would use that as the base, and I would just kind of stand there. And I don't really work on sermons. Sermons work on me. And when that thing is worked on me, it works in me. And when I get out in the crowd, it works out of me. It works on me, in me, and then out of me. It's a pretty normative process once you're committed to it. Now, if you're not committed to it, you're just borrowing some energy for a minute. The thing has to be in you. If you're a public speaker, that's not just a function, that's a reality. Everywhere you go, you are speaking publicly, even if you don't use a word. So the energy and the signal that you create when you enter a room. When I say what's working on you, almost everywhere I go, I ask them, what's working? First I say, what's working for you? And then I ask, what's not working for you? If you made a comparison between what's working for you and what's not working for you, which would be the longest list? Their minds are then you say, now what's working on you? What keeps you awake at night? What's the itch that you find difficult scratching? What's itching you? Because that's important. And then what's working as you? How do you show up in the world, in your relationships, at home, at school, on the job, with your neighbor? How do you show up? What do you cause to occur when you enter a room or a conversation? And then finally, what do you perceive to be working against you? Because the answers to all those questions determine how you function in the universe, how you identify with yourself and with people, what you indicate, what is the significance of your being.
For anybody listening who says, how do I prepare? I have a speech to deliver. Today it's Saturday. I have one to deliver next Saturday. What kind of preparation should somebody be doing?
Well, I precede that with the word reparation. What do you need to repair in your life, in your thinking, in your vice? the people come to you because they feel something is in disrepair. So your preparation has to connect directly with your reparation. You repair something, a torn ligament, a torn idea, a broken dream, something that's chipped or broken. Start healing yourself, and let the message that you're presenting be a part of be cathartic to you. And when you walk in there, you are so healed by what you're sharing with those who feel that they need to be repaired. Your preparation has come through your reparation. Make the thing work for you. Make it work through you. Make it work as you and to you. And then it's done. Experience what you're saying. They will too.
Now, you've watched speakers struggle. You've seen speakers bomb. We've all seen speakers just absolutely fail to deliver. It's just it's awful, and we feel bad. We almost want to run up on stage and hug these people.
Yep.
Talk to me about where you feel like people are getting it wrong as it relates to preparation.
When you are in disrepair, and you have not. Really, you're false advertising. When you have not lived what you're saying, the cognitive dissonance eats you up on the stage and exposes you as a fraud. The crowd picks that up almost in seconds. If they come there and they have honest, earnest intentions to be helped, and you come in there as a quack, a doctor that doesn't really have your stuff together, they'll know it. And their energy, they'll withhold their acceptance. And when they reject you and you're standing on that stage, you die. If you don't make them want you, they will reject you. And the energy, the deadly negative energy and emotions and rejection makes the stage a hanging noose. And you're going to get hung.
If you've ever wanted to become a successful speaker or a more skillful orator or communicator, you definitely want to come back after the break. It's more with Carlton Pearson teaching us how to become effective and powerful presenters. Stay tuned. It's the ThriveTimeShow.com.
So tell us how to do the right thing when the pressure's coming down like lightning.
My name is Sean Lohman, and I'm from here in Tulsa, actually, Owasso. I own a residential redevelopment company, so I buy properties and then I fix them up and then I sell them for a profit. Well, Thrive is very non-industry specific. So when we come here, there's business owners from all different aspects of business. You know, they're doing all different industries, and he's teaching us how to look at it from that angle, because he owns 9 businesses. Clay Clark owns 9 businesses, so he knows what's in common with all of them. So he's teaching these big principles, things like just the backbone of how a sales conversation should look, or specifically what your marketing campaign needs to look like in order to make it be sustainable. Those are some of the biggest things that I'm going to take away and implement immediately. It's an intimate environment. You know, there's less than 30 people here, business owners, so you get a chance to ask questions, and it's just really informative and inspiring. Oh, this place is cool. There's a lot going on in here. There's a lot to look at. There's a lot of inspiring and motivational things on the walls, and lots of accomplishments, and just a very cool yet productive atmosphere. I'm coming in here yesterday, and you know there's a sales team in here. It was Friday, so you know they're ringing appointment bells and hitting gongs when they're making sales, and it's just a really motivating environment to be in, to see, you know, how business is done, basically. Clay's presentation style is really great. This is kind of a no BS, very direct sort of style, but he'll also get, you know, non-specific with what he's teaching, and then he'll get very specific, and he'll use stories throughout the process to really help it connect to you and make it implementable. Consistently, he's offered an opportunity to ask questions at the end of each workshop, and so that's really where, you know, the learning takes place, is asking those questions and getting those direct answers so that we can, you know, take those action items away from that. I don't see enough questions being asked, and sometimes that's just natural, but if people are missing out on the opportunity to ask questions, they're missing out on the opportunity to learn. And so if there's anything that's going to stop you from learning and growing, it's you. If you're here, you're going to learn and grow, as long as you're motivated to do that. And these other seminars that I went to 6 actually in the last year. So of these 6, at every single opportunity, You know, at the end, there's always a back of the room thing. Hey, you can spend a little money here and get this or that or this. And although those things are helpful, that's not always necessarily the best feeling we want to get. So he wants us all to know, and he's very clear about the fact that he's not trying to upsell us anything. His motivations are different. He's not trying to sell us. He's trying to help us. He's trying to mentor us. And he's very open about it. So I'd say it's awesome. That aspect of it's awesome. We need more people who are motivated in this world. We need more people who are willing to become entrepreneurs, who are willing to create jobs. We need more of that. There's not enough of it. So that's, to me, the message. That's the goal, is mentor 1 million people is this company's idea. And it's a beautiful idea, and I'm behind it 100%. So I want to contribute in any way I can as I move forward. This is just awesome.
Let's go. Hove. Hove. You are not ready. Unstoppable. Dynasty. Young Hova. I'm a hustler, baby. Hustler. I just want you to know.
All right, Thrive Nation, welcome back to the Thrive Time Show on your radio. It's the #1 business coach radio show on the planet, where we teach you everything you've ever needed to know to start or grow a successful business. Now, typically on this business coach show focused on business school without the BS, I am joined with Dr. Robert Zellner, but today he is out expanding his vast entrepreneurial empire, expanding his businesses. And so I am today going to give you a rare treat if you're just now tuning in. We are joined today with Carlton Pearson. Yeah, that Carlton Pearson. You know, the guy that used to be the head pastor of a mega church in town called Higher Dimensions? Yeah, that Carlton Pearson, who was featured on the news media for being a heretic. Yeah, that Carlton Pearson. Well, his life is being turned into a movie called Come Sunday that will star Martin Sheen, who will be playing Oral Roberts, and the lead character, the guy who played the main character from the movie 12 Years a Slave, Chiwetel Ejiofor, and I mispronounce it every time, but I'm doing my best here. He is going to be playing Carlton Pearson in the movie. It also stars Danny Glover, and so Carlton is swinging by the Box That Rocks here. We had a chance to sit down with him, and we're not going to talk about religion or politics, but I am going to dive down deep into how to become an effective speaker. There's so many thrivers out there like you who want to become a better communicator, a better speaker, a better presenter. And you remember Carlton Pearson. You remember being such a great speaker. And so he's going to teach us his moves here. And I sat down with him during an interview, and we're talking right now about how to develop increased confidence if you are a developing speaker. So again, if you're just now tuning in, you're listening to Carlton Pearson, whose life is being made into a movie called Come Sunday, and we're rejoining the conversation, the interview that he and I had about how to develop more confidence as a speaker. So if you think back about your career, and all the talks you've ever done, what in your mind goes down as your single best talk you've ever delivered, or one of the best, and why?
Conviction. When you are conviction and convincere means to become a victim of or have victory over. When you are convicted, you become totally convinced that what you're saying works for you and will work for them. It doesn't take long for them to know that you really believe what you're saying because you've experienced it more than expressed it. If you're just expressing it without experience, it weakens the energy. When you've actually experienced the financial success or finding a place of peace or a consolidation of the soul, when you've been healed, you can heal others. So constant reparation, you always, when you are working out in a gym and you're doing push-ups and sit-ups and running in place, and you're practicing your breathing, you're well prepared and well repaired. And when you present yourself in the contest, the people in the audience knows the guy did his work.
You probably grew up with watching Martin Luther King Jr. deliver these powerful talks.
Yeah.
And he would say things like, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. And the audience would just, melt. He would say, I have a dream. Talk to me about the impact of Martin Luther King Jr.'s speaking style on your speaking style, and why he was such an effective speaker in your mind.
It's like a hypnotist uses the power of suggestion to change your reality. When you stand on that stage, hypnos is the Greek word for sleep. You put to sleep every adversarial element in that person, everything that is adverse or in opposition to what you're presenting. So you're actually manipulating, negotiating, and navigating an ocean of energy and vibration. And you gotta know how to be a navigator to do that. I mean, you gotta have some experience on the sea. You're dealing with water, and water can have sudden storms. I was raised in Southern California, born in San Diego, on the Pacific Ocean. Pacifica, Latin word for peace. Actually, the Pacific Ocean is the most stormy of the seven seas. But when Cabrillo went from San Diego to the South Pacific, he didn't experience any storms. So he named that body of water Pacific Ocean. Now, what you call a thing is how you've experienced the thing. And when we're born, we are 90% or 80% water. By the time we're adults, we're 60%. But the brain is always 80% water. And nothing responds to vibrations like water. Water is a metaphor for spirit. You know, when I say we're not just human beings looking for a spiritual experience, we are spirits having an earthly encounter. So how do I relate to the moisture in human beings? We spend the first 9 months of our existence in water, swimming. That's our first familiarity. So when you create spirit, you remind the audience or the person, if it's just an individual, of their essence, of their essential being. You're reminding the people of what they've already known but forgotten. I think we all come here knowing, but we experience amnesia between the womb and the tomb. We forget that we agreed to come here, and then we panic, and that creates all the tension on the planet. Now, that's a mystical approach to it, of course, but that's the way I operate. I know that I'm talking to water, and I've got to stir it up. I've got to clean it up, take the murkiness or the muddiness, the insanity or the unsanitized water. It's still water. It's just so murky, and it's the person is insane because there's no sanitation. So you help them clean and clear or clarify first that they're water and why and how to flow.
You are perhaps the deepest human I've ever been around, and I want to ask you this because this is a kind of a deep thought. Every great speaker seems to have a spiritual common denominator. They seem to be able to arouse and to get the audience to totally come alive in a way that is almost hypnotic, almost mystical, all the things that all the adjectives you've used, but yet when you hear these things and you're trying to learn how to become a speaker, you're going, this is a little weird. You know, so walk me through. I mean, if I'm on the edge, right, if I'm on the precipice of becoming a great speaker, and I'm a good speaker, I'm a solid B-, Carlton, and I am looking at the great speakers, yourself, President Obama, Martin Luther King Jr., Tony Robbins, Oral Roberts, and I'm going, well, I'm just dipping my toe in the spiritual side, the mystic. I don't want to hop into that. Educate me. What do I need to do here?
Well, I love the verse that says faith comes by hearing. The word hearing is the Greek word akouo, where we get the English word acoustics.
All right, Thrive Nation, when we come back, more with the conversation with Carlton Pearson. We're talking about how to become an effective communicator, how to become the very best speaker that you can be. However, if you want to learn how to take your business to the next level, if you want to discover the proven path, if you want to learn specifically what you need to do to achieve that time freedom and financial freedom that you've been striving for, you must go to thrivetimeshow.com, click on the button Conferences, read those reviews, and book your tickets to the next in-person Thrive Time workshop. It's located on the left coast of the Jinx River at the beautiful Riverwalk. It's the Thrive Time in-person 2-day, 15-hour workshops. Don't miss out.
My name is Tyler Schultz with Witness Security from here in Tulsa. Well, I actually started listening to Thrive on the radio, 1170, and then I got my dad into listening to the show, and then it actually turned into Clay gave us a call, and we started actually working with Clay on weekly basis. He's helped us drastically when it comes to the SEO, getting us a little bit higher in different markets. Then he offered the conference and just learned a lot when it comes to the sales and the employee side of things. It's going to help our business drastically. Oh, very intuitive, just pulling you in to break down each part of your business. The interview process, the employee process. If employee's not working out, you let them go. It's a drastic experience. You just have to come and check it out. I mean, there's so many things that they can help you with. Clay's a funny guy. He just wants to get into each and every person's business and help you out. Oh, I know I've asked a couple of questions, and he's broken down that question and answered it in several different ways. There are so many different things. The SEO, first and foremost, he will help you get the more business coming in, and then once that is coming in, then he helps you with the employee process of do I need to hire more people? What do I need to put in place? And he gets you there. You hear of all the other different type conferences, and I myself have never been to one, but the walking on coals and all that stuff, that just seems like a bunch of hype that isn't really needed. And I know of several people that have gone to those type conferences, and yet they haven't, because there's no actionable deals, you really don't have any moving forward steps. It's just hype, and it's not needed. Well, just the cost in of itself versus $6,000 for one conference and no actionable steps versus $1,500 and there is actionable steps. You can't beat it.
I wanna be a billionaire so freaking bad. Buy all of the things I never had. I wanna be on the cover of Forbes magazine, smiling next to Oprah and the Queen.
All right. For anybody just tuning in for the first time, you are now tuning in to the Thrive Time Show on your radio. My name is Clay Clark. I'm the former SBA Entrepreneur of the Year, sent here on a mission to help you get into a great financial position. And on the Thrive Time Show, we talk about all things related to becoming the most successful business person that you could possibly be. And many of you have emailed us over the last year and have texted us and have asked the same questions repeatedly. And the question, the common denominator was, hey, how can I become a more effective speaker? We've had people come out to a workshop and say, man, that thing was awesome. How can I learn to become a speaker like that? How can I learn to put on workshops like that? How can I improve my communication skills? And then if you do some research, you'll discover that Warren Buffett said that the training that he received in public speaking from the Dale Carnegie Institute made the biggest impact on his life of any training he ever received. And so you start to realize that the people who are the most successful people on the planet are all good at communicating. Communication skills are absolutely paramount to your success. In fact, if you read a book called, there's a book called Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. In that book, he has exhaustive research that shows no matter how much intellectual intelligence you possess, if you cannot emotionally connect with others and inspire others to take action, you're going to have a very hard time in life, and especially in the game of business. So inside the studio today, we brought in Carlton Pearson. Now, Carlton Pearson, I know that he has a definite stigma because he's a guy who started a mega church and then switched religions. He actually was featured on the national media for being what most of people in the evangelical circles would call a heretic. And his life is being made into a movie right now, starring Martin Sheen as Oral Roberts, and the main character from 12 Years a Slave, the Academy Award-winning actor from 12 Years a Slave, will be playing the part of Carlton Pearson in the upcoming movie. It also stars Danny Glover. It's going to be big. And so we have Carlton on the show today, though, not talking about religion and not talking about politics. We're just talking about the thing that he did so well for so many years, and it was delivering a powerful presentation. This man gave over 5,000 sermons. Any given Sunday, he had to bring it. And so he's going to be teaching us his moves today for developing more confidence as a speaker and on how to become a more powerful presenter. Whether you're presenting in a small group, a mid-sized group, a larger group, you need to nail down these communication skills. And so now we're going to tune back in to the interview that I had with Brother Carlton Pearson here on the Thrive Time Show.
The word hearing is the Greek word akouo, where we get the English word acoustics. And the acoustical sound has to do with the reverberations or the resonations, resound or repetitions, the things that bounce off the walls. If you go in a building, you say, boy, this building is really alive. A singer loves that. Bands like it. If the thing is going to bounce around. Now you hear sounds. The Hebrew word, the Greek word for sound is akos. English word is echo. And an echo is a sound out of the past. Light travels 186,000 miles per second. A light year is the distance that light can go in 1 year at that speed, several trillion miles. Sound, on the other hand, travels only about 1,100 feet per second. So you can see a lot farther and faster than you can hear. But faith doesn't come by seeing. Faith comes by that which bounces itself around in your soul. You hear it when you're asleep. You hear it when you're washing the car, when you're filling it up, when you're eating, when you're bathing and shower. It never leaves you. That echo, that sound reminds you of the past, which is the original purpose for which you came to this planet. You have to feel a sense of destiny to feel a sense of destination. The Latin word for destiny, de, means to intensity. Estener means to stand with intensity, to be intentional, and to be attentive to what you're here for. That is having focus. So if you see and feel and sense and know, conscience, conscientia in Latin, with science, with knowledge. Science means knowledge. So speaking is an art, a science, and a grace. It's art, a science, and a pace. Art, science, and a space. Because when you speak, the word is spirit is coming out of you. It's breath. Pneumonia. The word lung is pneumon. Pneumonia or breathing or breath. That's why talking and slowing it down and breathing regularly and rather than hyperventilating. Just slow down the breath and let your lungs inhale and exhale. And if a certain light was on either of us speaking, you could see the moisture. Every time somebody speaks, microscopic particles of moisture come out of their mouth.
And maybe that's why I don't like flying on planes very much. I don't know. But in all sincerity, Thrivers, Carlton is getting deep. He's getting into the marrow, getting into that very specific, beyond the epidermis kind of training about how to become a great orator and a great speaker. Now, one of the things you have to do to become a great speaker is you have to know what you're working with. You just have to know what skills you have and what skills you don't have. Some of you listening right now are phenomenal musicians. You're just very talented with music. You've developed that skill after years and years, hours and hours of practice. Others of you are funny. I mean, you are a funny person. People tell you, oh my gosh, you are so funny. You are hilarious. And others of us are very detailed. You're very into the details. You're very precise. You have a quick wit. You memorize things quickly. But you have to take an inventory of the skills that you have before you go out there and become the best public speaker that you can be. If you don't do that, you're going to put yourself in a really awkward situation where you get up on stage and you're unable to deliver what the audience has booked you for because you weren't able to clearly set the expectations for the person booking you as to what you can deliver. And I'll just give you an example. I mean, years ago, I remember when my company DJ Connection began to take off, more and more companies would reach out to me and want to hire me as a speaker. Well, I wasn't marketing myself as a speaker. I didn't have speaking literature. I didn't have pricing. But I was honored to do it. I mean, it's something as a DJ, kind of in the pecking order of life. You know, there's a carny, and if you apply for a job as a carny, that's the carny meaning from the root word carnival worker. If you get denied, then what happens is then you apply to be a disc jockey. And that's how I became a disc jockey. So and once you become a good disc jockey, maybe you get to move up and become a politician or maybe you get to move up and become a speaker, then a politician. So I guess it goes like this. You go from the carny to the DJ to the public speaker to the politician. Well, anyway, I was asked to speak for Hewlett-Packard. I've spoken for Valspar Paint. I've spoken for Maytag University. I mean, there's some pretty massive companies, O'Reilly Auto Parts. These people have paid me to go speak. And when you get up there to speak and you don't know how to do it well, it just feels weird. The event planner comes up to you and says, hey, you're going to be on in 10 minutes. And you say, good, great, yeah, fine, great, I'm excited, yeah. She's like, are you okay? You seem kind of like you're sweating a little bit. No, I'm fine. I sweat profusely when I do talks. And she says, your fly's unzipped. Oh, yeah, my bad. Do you guys have any alcohol? If that's how you feel before you do a public speaking event, you're not alone. I think many people start to get the sweats. They start to shake. They start to speak fast. They start to not make sense. And it just, your brain feels like it's exploding in front of all of your peers. If that's you, don't fear. When we come back, Brother Carlton Pearson is going to teach us how to get the most out of the skills that you have been given as a speaker. Stay tuned. ThriveTimeShow.com.
My name's Carter. This is my wife, Jensen Watts. She has a photography business that we're trying to get up and growing. So I, listen to talk radio. I drive a lot for work, and got tired of listening to radio all the time, and I can't plug my phone into my truck. It's too old. And so, one day the Thrive show was just in place of the talk show I normally listen to, and it was, definitely more entertaining than most radio shows. And so that's, it took about a week or two before I actually looked more into it. I think it's wonderful. It's been great. It's a great environment. I love the feel in here, and I really love how entertaining Clay can be as well.
Yeah, I am so grateful to be here, and I've loved just learning everything. I'm learning a lot about branding and how to market my business, because that's kind of where I've had a hard time. Is I can take pictures, I'm good at it, I have my prices and everything, but it's hard to get the clientele. So learning about the marketing has really helped me, and I can't wait to implement it into my own business after this, because it's been so great. We're so grateful to be here. I think I can go home and I have it written out, the steps that I need to take, and everything. It's very practical.
Yeah, a big thing that's helped me, even without business stuff, is just a mental attitude aspect they have that I can apply to my current job and current life.
I love it. I am laughing a lot of the time, and it's so entertaining, and I just love being here. It's awesome.
I really like the smaller class group, so it is more of an interaction, even if it isn't, a constant raise my hand, here's the question, here's the answer. It's just that kind of feel, just a smaller.
It's great. Yeah. They haven't tried to upsell us anything. It has all just been very knowledgeable, and they are just teaching you how to grow your business. So
Clay's been very giving with his time, his knowledge, his talents. At work, when I was telling people about this, I hope you're not joining some get-rich scheme. Even if it is, he's not going to charge me for it. So, yeah, I'd recommend it. I would even love to come again.
I made a mixtape in my dorm room. I can't believe this. It doesn't seem true. I won't stop though till everybody knows that.
ThriveTimeShow.com is where it's at.
Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here.
3, 2, 1, boom. It's the Thrive Time Show on your radio. My name is Clay Clark. I'm the former USSBA Entrepreneur of the Year, sent here to help you financially improve your situation and to learn those practical business skills that they just will not teach you in college. I don't know what the deal is. I went to college at Oral Roberts University. I also went to Oklahoma State University, and I also went to St. Cloud State University. And I remember going to St. Cloud State. We had a class called Social Science, where you're in a room with 350 other students talking about, the concept of time, space, the Mayans, the Incas, the new Mayan calendar, whether it was going to end in our certain demise if the calendar screwed up somehow. And we're just learning about civilizations and Freud and It's just the whole like psychology. It was just a whole ridiculous exercise in futility. And after I went there for a year at St. Cloud State University, I transferred to Oral Roberts University. And at Oral Roberts University, I had 2 more years of also classes that had nothing to do with anything that I've ever been asked to do in my professional career. I'm studying humanities. I've never had a deal close because of my vast knowledge of the Mesopotamia River Valley. I've never had a huge deal close because of my knowledge of cuneiform. I never closed a deal because I'm able to plot a sloping, where you go to those graphs and you plot a slope on it. I've never been able to achieve success because of my mastery of diagramming sentences. But I can tell you one thing that has paid me and will pay you more than any other skill in the world. It is this: your ability to communicate and to influence others, your ability to get other people to do what you need them to do, your ability to motivate other people, your ability to influence people, your ability to negotiate with people, your ability to communicate effectively. And so for today's show, I wanted to bring on the master of communication and a guy who's been an unbelievable business coach in my life, a guy who's helped me on a very practical level in the world of communication. Now, he is very controversial. He's not a guy that I will take spiritual advice from. He's not a guy that I agree with, let's say, religiously or politically, but he is a guy who is sincere in his desire to help people, and he is a phenomenal speaker. The man that I'm talking about today is the man who's given over 5,000 sermons. What would that be? Could you imagine what it would be like to give 5,000 sermons? He's a guy who was personally mentored by Oral Roberts. And Oral Roberts will actually be played by Martin Sheen in the upcoming movie about Carlton Pearson's life called Come Sunday. Carlton Pearson will be played by an Academy Award nominated actor. We're also going to have Danny Glover in the movie. It's going to be worth seeing. And Carlton Pearson has made a big impact in my life in the world of speaking. So I asked him to come on to today's show to help us, to help you, to help me become an effective speaker. Because we've all been to a speaking event, we've all been to a Chamber of Commerce event, we've all known somebody who's a good friend of ours, and maybe it's even happened to you. When you get up to speak and you just bomb. And then when you finish bombing, you have to keep going for another, hour, another 45 minutes. It's the worst feeling in the world for not only the audience, but for you. And so I have a sound clip from the movie Billy Madison that I think is a great example of what it feels like to not know what you're doing as a speaker and the kind of reaction that you may get from the audience. So here we go.
Mr. Madison, what you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Okay, a simple wrong would have done just fine, but...
Okay, you get the point. Billy Madison delivered a speech that at no point made sense, and he was ridiculed publicly because of it. You don't want that to happen to you. And so up next, Brother Carlton Pearson is going to be teaching you how to get the most out of the God-given skills that you have as a human. You know, how to take the skills that you have today and how to use those to become the most effective speaker possible. Knowing what you're working with. Talk to me about the importance of, as a speaker, to know what you're working with, what your skills are and what your skills are not.
Well, it's about... The word captain, cap, or decapitate has to do with headship or leadership. In the head is the vision, the speaking, the smelling or sensing, the hearing, and the thinking. That sends communication to the rest of the body. When you know you are in charge, you are the head, the people know it. It's not arrogance, it's confidence. You're working with people who have come to you with problems or needs or questions. They're not just coming there for the fun of it. Most of them are intentional. Not all of them, but most of them are. Some are there because they were paid free to go or something. But there's some people that really are intentional. Find them by the Spirit, just know that they're there. And so start communicating to that, establishing the relationship, establishing the headship. because they're going to hear what you see, hear what you hear what you think, hear what you sense or smell with your nose. There's a fragrance. There's a perfume. There's an odor, if you will. Sometimes it's foul. So you're sorting through all of that, and it just takes a few minutes for a responsible speaker to read the room and ready the room, and then put it out there.
So if somebody out there is listening and they have humor as one of their core skills, humor has really, there could be many, many different elements, but there's 6 that I have identified that I like to focus in on. One is jokes. You have the ability to deliver some jokes. Talk to me about how you deliver a joke properly to an audience and how you don't deliver a joke.
Well, I didn't tell a lot of jokes, but I did tell a lot of humorous stories.
There you go. Yeah.
Mine. There was usually something I experienced. So it came, the timing was right, the tone was right, and the tune was right. But laughter, the scripture says, doeth good like a medicine. So laughter, literally, scientifically, does release endorphins in the body, which is the chemical and chemistry that causes healing or restoration. So you're always bringing healing and restoration to people at whatever means is necessary. Humor almost always works. When I was speaking in the South, and there were a lot of times I spoke in the South in the 70s, when black speakers were not welcomed, or at least they weren't wanted. They were welcome, but usually not wanted.
Okay.
They were not the choice. So they didn't I would not allow them to put my picture in the paper on anything that suggested I was black. They just know I was coming from ORU and or Robert student.
And Carlton sounds like it could be neutral. It could be African American or Caucasian.
Yeah, it beats Hussein.
You were Barack Hussein Obama.
Or Muhammad or something like that.
Yeah.
They didn't know. So when I walk in, step up on that stage and live in color, sometimes there was a gasp. Even people who had asked, "Can I have the speaker? Can I have Carlton Swinley instead of our house?" Until I got there. So what I would do, every place, I would break the tension with humor. A racial joke that was self-deprecating to me. And before they knew or could make a judgment, they were laughing.
Do you recall any of the jokes that you would say, or any kind of self-deprecation joke that you used back in the day? Could you recall any of those? I don't put it on the spot, but could you recall any of those?
One of the ones that I'd often tell is my friend Randy and I in the World Action Singers he would always make fun of my lips, my big lips. And they'd walk up to me and say, "Hey, Pearson, are those your lips or you're wearing a turtleneck?" Just one.
And only you could tell that joke.
Yeah, I can get by with it because it's about me. Okay. And they would go on. And one time I said, "You know what, Randy, I've had enough of this. Let me tell you something. When God made the black man, when he got to his lips, a new sense of creative ingenuity and architectural design came over him, and he began to knead those lips and fluff those lips and pull them out and spread them out and make them pretty and make them elegant. And when he made the white man, he just took a razor blade and split his face and said, 'Now talk.'"
Now I want to ask this now with jokes. There are people who are that's their move. That's their super move. They have this ability to deliver a joke, and we all know somebody who every time they deliver a joke, everyone goes, "Oh, that wasn't very funny." Yeah. Talk to me about maybe why you didn't use jokes, what kind of people should be using jokes. I mean, how do you deliver a joke? Because you have delivered some jokes in the past. What is if you're a speaker, how do you go out there and deliver a joke?
Well, you have to first feel the room. Now, I already know I am a joke by being there because I'm black in that setting. Now, that's in another setting, it's a total different thing. In the South, when I had to break the tension, I'd say, "Aha, here's Carlton Pearson and Live in Color. Y'all didn't know I was going to be here. You thought," and then everybody would start laughing because you could tell that most of them didn't know that I was going to be black or that I'd have an integrated team and that I would be the leader. But that happened to me in South Africa. I was the first African-American, the first man of color to ever lead an integrated team.
Wow.
During apartheid.
All right, Thrive Nation, you can tune back in tomorrow to hear the rest of this fascinating interview about becoming a powerful presenter with Carlton Pearson. But in the meantime and in between time, you do your thing and I'll do mine. But get up to thrivetimeshow.com, subscribe for the podcast, and book your tickets to the in-person workshop. 3, 2, 1, boom!